Hello everybody, welcome to our webinar. I think this one is going to be quite a fast one because I just want to show you all the niceties that we have prepared for you. As always, my name is Michael and I'm a teacher for Vizacademy. Vizacademy is a rendering school that will teach you how to create photorealistic visualizations just like our students do. And if you want to learn a little bit more, please make sure to visit our website so you can also grab a few freebies if you would like to. Make sure to also see available dates because our seats for upcoming trainings are, well, we're quite out of stock. So without any further ado, let's just go over what does the top 7 exterior plugins means and what are we going to be talking about today. Hello from Pakistan, Mexico. Hello Mike. Hi Nelson, Medina, Marzo, Abran, and Abin. Welcome everybody. So nice to have you here. Everybody who's in our chat, say hello just to make sure that I can see that you're active, and if you're not feeling like talking, you can just type in a plus. This is going to vastly boost our reach thanks to your activity. Our stream is going to reach a little bit more people, and the conversation is extremely important for us. Hello Asim, nice to have you. Also Ven, welcome, nice to have you as well. So let's get started. So we've got a short list of 7 plugins that I want to show you today that I think are extremely helpful for our exterior and interior creation at the same time. I'm trying to make sure that I'll try to make sure that we will be working with stuff that's not going to be overwhelming, and I'm not going to probably surprise you that on our list there's going to be some of the software from i2 Software, which is Railclone and Forest Pack. But those two, I would say, are almost the same thing for me personally. Hello from Tunisia, hello from India, hello to you too, guys. It's so nice to have you. And Dorina, hi, welcome. Hi, nice to have you guys. Arima, Vin, Thomas, Alexander, guys, so nice to have you. Okay, so the first thing I want to open is going to belong to our student. Her name, if I recall correctly, is Rayani. So Rayani is a brilliant person, and she was able to create this scene almost on her own, actually, because at the moment when she was creating it, it was like her second or third exterior with us, and honestly, she really nailed it. So we're going to try to look into it, and we're going to try to see what plugins we could use to save a little bit of time when working with 3ds Max. But our main purpose here is going to be pretty much just show you that you don't necessarily need all the plugins. You just need to make sure that you know what you're doing. So I'm fine, thank you very much. Thank you. Hi Mohammed, nice to have you as well. And I love those flowers. Hello Sai. Okay, so as I was saying, first plugin is going to be Railclone. In this scene, it doesn't have any particular use case because it's not really going to be a huge lifesaver in here, because this scene altogether is going to be quite simplistic. And if we're going to look at it, and I mean the final render really, it's going to be pretty much that. And you can tell that this scene is not necessarily going to be the most, let's say, Railclone is not going to be necessarily the most helpful here. But what's going to be helpful is definitely Forest Pack, a little bit of Railclone maybe here, but definitely we're going to focus mostly on elements that really matter for us, so a little bit of realism. So let's get started. First, we're going to talk about Railclone. Railclone is one of those pieces of software that you can obtain from i2 Software. This is not a sponsored stream. This is, I'm not giving, let's say, giving you any info on those companies because we were paid. It's quite vice versa, because they allow me to earn money. So hello from Nigeria. explicit, okay, ArcVis perhaps, nice to have you guys, so cool. So guys, tell me, I see that there's a few of you that are architects, and some of you are using 3ds Max for sure, because that's why you came here. So tell me, what's your experience on, let's say, scaled 1 to 5? How would you grade yourself? Because I would say that 1 is going to be, let's say, beginner, or 0, I just want to start learning 3ds Max once I got acquainted with it, while 5 is going to be pretty much a level of I already create visuals for my clients. So i2 software has many things to offer: Forest Pack, Railclone, and all the unnecessary stuff. So first thing first, we're going to talk about Railclone. So this software is really beautiful and powerful, and not only it will help you build your scenes in tremendously cool. It's going to give you a tremendously cool speed up. It's also with a little bit of ingenuity, it's going to be just a perfect way of working with 3ds Max. Remember when I shown you during the exterior modeling trick with splines and how to create windows and making it interactive? Railclone is that but on steroids. V-Ray 3ds Max tutorials, civil engineer, architect, and number 3. Okay, so I see that. So number 3 means that you are already quite advanced. Soon we're planning on making a small portfolio review for you guys. So I'm going to soon, we're soon going to give you an email which will be available to you to send your, I would say, portfolios. We're going to pick some of them by random, and then we're going to talk about them live. So that's why I'm asking, and it would be nice if you could also participate, I mean the rest of you. So Forest Pack and Railclone are industry standard by student, but student can bind it, so a light version will do the job, and that's the difference. The light and yes, so thank you for pointing that out. Because I'm already using the version that, let's say, I'm already earning money on it. So it's logical that I decided to buy myself the version that I'm going to be, that is going to allow me to pretty much just get better at it. But if you're a beginner, you should consider the light version, which is just going to be amazing. Railclone is amazing, and we know that, but it actually is good if you know how to use it. And the best part about it is that there are many small things that we would like you, that you would probably want to get into. And as you can see, the libraries that it has are very vast. There's a ton of very useful stuff, and it's pretty much going to be a small, let's say, it's going to be interchangeable with many plugins that you already have. For example, it can be more powerful than Floor Generator, while at the same time a little bit more complicated. It's great for making moldings for the ceilings. We have an option to not use it, but if we have a tool at our disposal where we can actually use just one tool for all of that, it's going to be just easier. So how about we just go ahead, and I'm going to show you my favorite part of the whole Railclone, and that's going to be the curbs, pavements, and pretty much all of that. First thing we do is select the preset that we're interested in. I'm going to zoom in so we can see how beautiful those are, and this one in particular is one of my favorites because most of my clients pretty much want that to see in their scenes. But obviously you're going to have to adjust from time to time, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But luckily for you, we're not going to go into details of it because this is not the type of stream. This is not that type of stream. So as you can see, we've got our pavement. It was created by one click, but honestly, there's nothing that nothing that impressive in here because it's just a simple mesh that got a little bit stretched out. Well, yes and no, because Railclone is going to not only give you flexibility, but also it's going to be quite smart about all the objects you're going to be using, because it's going to intuitively be able to predict what kind of surface you're trying to create, and it's going to be quite good at it. It's going to be less useful in some instances whenever you will be, let's say, trying to break it on purpose. But if we're going to use some regular, or let's say more logical approach, it is going to be perfecto. So my favorite thing about it is that it has the flexibility that I mentioned. So for example, if I'm going to select those two vertices, I can change what I'm going to see. So for example, we can go to our vertices selected, go to the interpolation, that's going to be here. Now with that out of the way, we're going to go to our edge and select this edge. So if I'm going to change this edge's ID, we're going to see that the object also changes. So I can make a quick driveway for my scene without even thinking about it, because imagine how much trouble it gives you to create this kind of detail in especially in seconds, and this software has you covered. ID number 3 typically is going to just mean that we're going to get a little bit different. We're going to have an opening, and ID number 1 is the regular one. So this is really, really amazing. Hello, Alla, nice to have you. So Alla is my current student, and I must say a big shout out to you. He's doing really amazing. So Alec came to us with a little bit knowledge already at his pocket, so I'm really proud to see that each time we're improving, and he's very, I would say, receptive, because he's like a sponge, really quickly learning everything we throw at him. So Ala, kudos to you, and let's continue. So this is one of my favorite, let's say, properties of Railclone. It allows you the flexibility. But if you want to, you can also use Railclone in a little bit different manner, because as I mentioned, the presets that it has are absolutely amazing. So Theodore, welcome. Nice to have you as well. How are you? Okay, so the preset that I also love, and it helps me the most with my exteriors, is the guttering. I hate doing gutters, and that's really something that I do not recommend you doing for the most part, but we're just going to download one of them. Also pick a spline, because our Railclone typically works with splines, and let's change the view type to just simple, to a simpler, because we want to see everything as it is. So this is the cool part, because if I'm going to add a little bit of additional lines, you can see that the gutter is building everything around. It's interactive, it's smart, and it's also will allow you to kind of mess up, because it is also going to allow you to create those slides. Not the best thing to do, but it's going to be something. Also, I hear that we might be a little bit out of scale with our sound, so allow me to just correct that, guys, because the sound might be a little bit much. Okay, so this should be a bit better. Bedroom, please. What do you mean, Roof? Okay, so now the cool thing here is that our Railclone is going to be reacting to different types of vertices when working with the preset for the gutter. So if I'm going to press the Bezier, you can see that now it creates this drop element, which is perfect, and that's something that normally is just impossible to do. Also, look at that. It reacts to rotation, and it's going to allow us to do different presets depending on different objects. But the thing is that the best possible option we can imagine is to just play along and change the elements to our needs. If I'm going to go for soft version, you can see what it does. If I'm going to go for Bezier, it does this. If I'm going to go for Bezier corner, it's going to create a nice connection around it. And simple corner is just going to be, well, from point A to B, then a little bit of ease in, which is again amazing because it saves you so much time. At some very unfortunate angles, it's going to get a little bit glitched out, but that's nothing that a little bit of scaling cannot fix, and in some instances, just a little bit of help is going to be needed. Or just deleting a vertex might be helpful in some cases because this software doesn't like to have, let's say, useless elements along this way. So Railclone is my number 7. It's one of the things that I love using. The next plugin is going to be from different company, and that plugin is going to be from the company you know. It's Autodesk. So what do you mean Autodesk? Autodesk builds or gives out is giving out some kind of plugins. Well, yes, if for some reason it's not a default element that you may have, you may not have it by default in your 3ds Max for reasons that only Autodesk's CEO knows about. So let's go ahead and just quickly create something that's going to be 40 centimeters. Let's say this is going to be a chair, and now we're going to copy it somewhere out there, but remove it from this spot. So a lot of you guys would prefer to use a little bit higher quality people, or a lot of, let's say, higher density models, but I'm also aware that not every one of you is going to be able to pony up a few hundred or even £1,000 per script. So typically the best software that you can imagine for this type of operation is going to be Anima. It's just great. It has everything. It allows you to create super big crowds and even add some kind of scripting. But unfortunately, it has one huge downside, and that is its price. So I'm not going to be going into detail about it, but it's not really that cool because it's, well, not that fun. Anyway, let's go ahead and see the alternative for it because, well, why not just use it since we've got 3ds Max anyway. Thank you, the best place to be better at and to be a pro. Thank you, Hala. Hello, Mike. Hello, Masa. Nice to see you. How are you? We'll watch after the live is done. I wish I could follow this one. Waited for this one for a while. Great stuff, Christian. Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate the kind words. So let's go ahead and talk about a plugin that nobody uses or nobody talks about, but it's right here built into 3ds Max regardless what version you're using. So this is called Populate. By default, it's not installed in your 3ds Max, but if you go to this tab and to open it, you have to go to the ribbon, show ribbon, then you go to the Populate, and we got a plethora of options around here. So what it does, by default, it's going to ask you to download and install the Populate. So you do it, you reinstall, you restart your 3ds Max, and now you can do stuff like this. Okay, my pseudo town was way too small, so let's rescale it so it's going to make a little bit more sense, and let's move those elements away. This was a huge helper when I was creating clubs and larger areas that didn't require that much quality in, let's say, I would say when I was working with crowds. So what I wanted to do always is to have some kind of ability to just move around the objects, make some population points, and have a little bit of a way of controlling the people in my scenes. And thanks to this, I can just quickly place a female or a male in my scene like this, and they will be just sitting. So those are just sitting poses. Or we can create area of, let's say, interest, where we will be creating a small area where some people will just populate this this area as we go. And lucky for us, it's going to be extremely simple to do because as you saw me doing it, it was just, well, quite, well, 5 seconds. And my favorite is just a rectangle. It's the fastest. So now Since we've got it, we can modify the idle areas and we can simulate our movement. This simulation is cool, but prior to that, you want to probably decide what kind of simulation you want. In my case, I only want 100 frames because I don't need more. Brush size, it's only for the drawing, so we don't need it. Width controls the width of the road we're going to be making, and look at that. Now, if I click on simulate, do you want to install and populate data? What I didn't, okay, so that's a new one for me. Let's go, because I was sure I had it. That now I've got an egg on my face, so we're going to have to install it live together. Hello, Benjamin. Benjamin is another student of mine. It's so nice to have you guys. Guys, since we're downloading, meanwhile, if you could, please make sure to leave a like, and if you're not subscribed, please subscribe, because it's going to be lovely to have you with me here for longer and to be notified about upcoming streams and new videos. Meanwhile, guys, I encourage you to ask questions, because questions, that's the reason why we're doing the live. Live is for as much for me as it is for you. We're trying to obviously reach as many as broad audience as it is possible, but at the same time we want to give something in return, and that is our time and knowledge. So feel free to ask questions related to 3ds Max and the industry. So populate data, because my simulation is going to well, not work at the moment. We're going to move on to something different, or we can just try closing 3ds Max for now and quickly install it. It's going to be literally 3 minutes, so we're not going to lose on this trade, but I am a little bit surprised because I am sure that I had it installed. But well, you know, this is number one rule of live streaming. You typically just cannot predict everything. Mike, do we need pen tab or post-production archviz? No. If I do understand your question, do we need a pen tablet for post-production for archviz? No, you don't. Personally, I try to avoid any kind of post-production as much as I can. Not because I am afraid of it or I don't like it, but it's one of those things that are going to be a little bit counterproductive when you will be working with your clients. So if you're going to spend a lot of time on your shot rendering and after that, you're always going to be doing a little bit of post-production. Just make sure that it's going to be limited to the smallest elements. I mean, some contrast, maybe fixing 1 or 2 brushes, but don't go too far, because I was in this trap where my client asked me to do a review. He asked me for a little bit of a change, and let's move the camera 5 degrees to the left. At this moment, I was just absolutely heartbroken, because I had to repaint everything that I've added in post-production, which was really, really hard. So I try to always create my shots as photorealistically as possible, but at the same time, I do not try to expect that I'm going to be adding anything in the post-production, because at that point, I'm really going to be in a bad position, especially if I'm going to have to repaint everything. That's a very, very time-consuming process. Could you make a webinar or short video about typical 3ds Max errors and how to fix them? That sounds like a good plan. A webinar won't be really that useful. It would be best to have a certain video for a certain problem, and we can actually create a short, I would say, playlist that would help you with that. Okay. Hi Mike, how are you? I'm from Algeria and I'm always watching your videos. That's so nice, thank you. You probably answered this a million times, but do you think AI will render all this obsolete? I would say no, not at all, because the simplest answer ever is, in order to be able to be replaced, I mean, if you are afraid that you're going to be replaced, your client would first need to know what looks good, and well, that client would probably would have to have some kind of knowledge about architecture, about ArcViz, and nobody has time for that. When I'm working with architects, they barely know anything about SketchUp, 3ds Max. Some of them don't even use AutoCAD, and they're amazing designers, but they design on a piece of paper, and then you are responsible for making it look good. And if AI is going to be, let's say, a useful tool, now I believe it's a toy at the moment, not a tool, because it's a little bit too dumb, but it will get to a point where eventually we will be supplementing our work a lot with AI. Even now, Corona has a little bit of AI in it. If you go to the denoising, you can use the Intel AI or NVIDIA AI for the denoising. So it's already in our workflow, but it's a part of it. It's not replacing you. It's not making your work obsolete. It is only going to allow you to work faster. It's like saying that the boost that Corona gave to the artists when it first came out made everybody else obsolete. Not at all. There was no point in history that made all the people obsolete. Maybe if you are responsible for making icons or some kind of stock items, maybe AI is going to be able to replace you in a way that well, instead of 5 people, there's going to be 1 guy who's going to be prompting it. But really, I don't believe that it's going to ever replace a human touch, just because of the clients and how they are. So now once it's installed, let's see how it works. This was really fast, and thank you for your exciting questions. Does Max have plugins to draw precise spline polyline? Sometimes we need to draw spline used for swept profiles quickly. Yes, there are plugins and there are options that will give you all of that that you well just said. So Populate is, let's say, animal light, or a version of Populate system that will allow you to at least add lower quality or medium quality people into your scenes. And those are not really the ugliest. I mean, those are definitely not a close-up people, and I mostly use them for some background work, because for the foreground, you definitely want to go for a little bit higher quality, higher density. Always anything that's going to be closer to the camera needs a little bit more fidelity. But if we look at it this way, it's not that bad. I mean, look at this guy. He's a handsome fella. Let's just select them. Okay, so now, as you can see, maybe not the highest quality, but we're not planning on making any kind of close-ups. And since those people can sit where we wanted them to sit, they are really cool, and they have an idle animation. So thanks to that, your animations won't be that boring. I mean, 2 people talking at the same time next to one another may be not the best thing ever. That is why we've got resimulate for certain people. You can see that now this guy is going to have a totally new function and he's just bored, or we can just force him to do anything else, but it's always cool to have that option. On top of that, we can also regenerate those people, either in higher quality, or we can also try to use the appearance UI. It's not AI, it's UI, and we can change this guy into this lovely old lady, and this lovely old lady is going to allow us to create more lovely old ladies, and we can go on and so on. So this is going to also allow you to randomize them more, or make them all just a clone of this lady. So this is cool because you can adjust your population to the needs of your client, because if you're going to be working for somebody from Arabia, you most likely will be adding people that have the right clothing, right skin tones to just better suit the area. You can sprinkle a little bit of variety in there, but it's always going to be a little bit different, but it's all going to be in the end, it's all going to come down to what your client needs. My opinion is that we've got at least 10 to 20 years where traditional 3ds Max is great. We will need to learn AI tools within the next 5 years. I would say, Panda, that you probably want to learn AI as soon as possible because it already is very impressive and it can be supplementary to your work. I'm not saying that you have to throw everything out through the window and start learning it now, but just start easing into it. Mike, hope you give us professional course in Unreal Engine like the course we are taking now in 3ds Max and Corona. At some point, I promise I will. So you're just going to have to wait for that. Okay, so this was plugin number 2. Now let's go for plugin number 3. This thing is going to be not that much far from our first one, but it's also extremely well known. So first thing first, we're going to create some kind of plane, and then we're going to create our forest pack. So for the forest pack, we're going to make sure to first switch it to icon mode because I want to have all the options at my disposal as I go. So we've got that out of the way. And it has, again, the best thing about Forest Pack, really, it's the only thing that I like. Not the 3D presets, 3D objects, those are boring and we've got better, but the presets. Presets are cool because they save you a lot of time. And don't kid yourself, having presets is a good way to go, or the proper way of going with your life. Because if you don't create presets, if you don't save your work, if you do not create your own libraries, you will be wasting time, you will be less efficient, so that's not going to be a good thing. Okay, did I miss any questions? How's it going? Hello, sir, from Pakistan Art Studio. Nice to have you again. So I see you on each of our streams, so that's so cool to have somebody revisiting. Also, stop doing post-production after the reviews. It's painful when you have to redo everything. That's exactly my feelings. So nice that we're on the same page. So mid-all, tell me a little bit more about you. What do you do? And well, obviously, what level of skill would you grade yourself at? Very Corona render is best. Well, I'm always going to be using Corona right now because at the moment it's the fastest and it gives me the most, I would say, it gives me the most time to be creative. Okay, so the presets, as you see, they're very vast. There's, wow, a lot of them, and they're really impressive. So the best preset for me is obviously the trees and lawns. My personal favorite is the daisies, so I'm just going to go for that, but daisy number 2 large is cool. I like to use the detail, obviously, because that's what they're intended for. Details are intended for closer setup for near the camera, and large are supposed to be scattered on the larger objects a little bit further from the camera. So automatic selector, no, we're going to go for Corona, and depending on the resolution, we're either going to be going high or low. We always go high. So let's load the preset. It's going to, yes, enable, thank you. And now we're going to continue. So this only loads this object into our geometry. It works almost the same as Chaos Scatter, and I would say that Chaos Scatter, as soon as it gets a little bit more of those nice presets, it's going to be just like Forest Pack, but at the moment they're a little bit ahead. So to add objects, we just go to the surfaces, and one thing that I like about this software is, well, mostly you can just click on, which is going to automatically force everything in, or we can just go for painting, and we're going to make sure to select something around 250 on, let's say, select the brush. Okay, this was a little bit too much. Let's go for 50. And this is one of the things that I love about Forest Pack, because it allows you to really do all of this quickly, and it's going to be, I don't know about you, but I believe that having this ability is just priceless. Yes, you can do exactly the same thing with regular chaos scatter, but it's not as flexible and you have to go through the hoops and loops to get the same result. And just being able to draw it with such ease, and it's just seamless. It has absolutely, I feel no slowdown on my computer. So that's why I love Forest Pack. And it really helps me draw those lines when I need them for details. For the most part, I still use Chaos Scatter because I feel it's a little bit less complicated, needlessly complicated, while Forest Pack has all of those hoops and loops you have to jump through, but still the painting and presets win me over each time. Is Populate used for isometric animations or something like this? I always find it hard to make people look photorealistic in images unless done very meticulously in Photoshop. Well, yes, but Sayak, if you want really high quality, I would probably recommend you to go for a little bit better software than that, and this would be Anima from XYZ Design, because really, look at those people. Those are a little bit higher quality, and maybe not this guy. Okay, yeah, super. Just, come on. Show me how it works and not some kind of corpo rats. Okay, yeah, people running, walking, doing stuff, and well, being people. This only is, this is high quality. For me, it's good enough. And those are mostly not people painted in. And okay, I can see that probably some of them are just photoshopped in. This is really, really bad marketing strategy because some of them are painted in and it looks bad. While here you can see that those are actual people that are in the 3D world, and that's cool because something like this is going to improve your work. And okay, so since we're on the topic of our forest objects that are a little bit more complicated, let's talk about something that a lot of you actually asked me about in DMs and on our Instagram. So this is going to be one of those plugins that again is super cheap, and if you're using a little bit older version of 3ds Max, it actually is free, so there's almost nothing stopping you from getting it. But if you still don't have it, how about I introduce you to script number 4, and that is going to be our script called Ivy Generator. So there's a funny story about this script because it was one of the most downloaded scripts for 3ds Max years ago. It was one of the most downloaded scripts, and the developer left a gate that allowed you to donate some kind of amount to get the download link. And some people, as the cheap people really are, donated 1 cent, half a cent, and some kind of funny currency unit, which was almost worthless for the developer. And the developer got furious. So he locked it up and said that he's never going to allow people to use his software. Just use it to the version, I don't know which one was it, but I think it was 2018 actually. So it was not that far ago. But then people just panicked. They started messaging that person, begging him to unlock it. And that person did, but with a little bit of a twist. So there's a small payment to be made if you want to use this. But the software is flawless. You can get it from this website. It's avisual.com. It pretty much shows you everything about the software before you even download it. I strongly recommend you to always support the creators. So go grow the ivy and look at that. It's beautiful. It allows it to grow, and now it's still going because I made sure that we can age it up until it's 1000 years old. Okay, this didn't go as planned because I was hoping that we're going to be able to actually reset ivy. Let's plant a new seed on this teapot. Yes, new ivy. Okay, thank you very much. So yeah, support them because otherwise our scripts are going to get a little bit messy and they will just glitch out. So run script again. Let's go for our ivy. Okay, and seed location. Let's just place it around here. So now it's not supposed to be on that plane. So let's just Control I, delete it. Seed position, and let's just place it here. Yes. Okay, now this third time is a charm. Let's just go for a box. I think that teapot was not I don't know what was wrong with it. I used it on much more complicated objects, but we're just going to try to go for this. And you, come on. Okay, now it's growing. So you can see that this plugin is brilliant because it's going to allow you to grow this ivy. It's going to create everything you need: splines, mesh, and well, all of that. The minus side is that it's also going to create this rat nest below the object. So we're going to have to modify it once it's done growing, but it's cool. So we stop it here. We then go to our branches and leaves. We draw either this by a spline or mesh. I prefer to draw it as mesh, and we want to have branch ID 1. Add a mesh smooth modifier. Don't do it because it's going to be too slow at the moment. And now we want to also draw the leaves. So we're just going to be able to select what kind of size and variety we want for the leaves. Depending on what kind of build you went for, the rotation is going to really be important. But once you build those, I mean the leaves, it's pretty much going to be obvious that this is quite a cool software because it allows you to add all of that additional detail to your balconies, to every scene that's going to be, well, requiring a little bit more finesse. And I can see that my computer is really struggling right now because we're online and it's trying to get me demotivated from our... Yeah, this only happens when I'm live. When I was rehearsing all of this, it was just flawless. So sorry for this. My first pack is the pro version, but there's also a free version with a little bit less elements in. Diego, welcome. Nice to have you. How can someone scale ArcViz Business Studio into making millions? I would say that scaling is going to require one specific thing. And that is going to be, well, ability to employ people. If you can manage people, if you can talk to contractors, that's how you scale. There's no other way than you cannot scale by doing something alone better because there's a limit to it. It's like being a nurse. Nurse can be really good at his or her job, but if you're going to be a nurse, you're going to be nursing maximum of 5, 10, 20 people at the same time, but there's a limit how many people you can help at once because there's one of you. So the only way of scaling is hiring new people. You don't necessarily need to be hiring them in your office, but you have to reach out to other designers, other creators, and sign a contract. Make sure to start working with them, pay for their time. And obviously, once you have a portfolio, that's when you will be able to participate in open grants. There's no other way than just opening yourself or allowing your clients to find you. Because if your client doesn't even know that you exist, what are you doing? So make sure to, first of all, have a nice portfolio. During our training, we help our students to build portfolios. So the images that they create during our training are tailored specially to not only help them gain some kind of exposure, but also to help them attract clients. And the most important thing is that we try to make sure that during our training, all of our students work with the style that they want to be good at. So there's no such thing as, well, if you want to create Buckingham Palace, I'm going to force you to do the most minimalistic interior ever, because that's pretty much going to be a bad way of working, and you're not going to enjoy it. Well, you always have to start somewhere, but we cannot force our students, and we encourage them to explore a little bit further. So Ivy Generator, this is a beautiful software. Each time when you generate something, make sure to place it on an object that's going to actually need it, or you want to split it in those flat planes like I'm going to do right now by detaching this part. So detach that, and once you have a flat plane made out of those elements, you definitely want to proxify those, and you can use scatter with that. So number 5 is probably not going to be that exciting, but it's going to be something that I think that a lot of people omit, and from what I noticed, not everybody started using. So this is something that is available for Enscape, V-Ray, Corona, and all other Chaos software, and it's called Chaos Cosmos. So not only it has beautiful furniture, accessories, lighting, vegetation, vehicles, but also it has beautiful patterns, which are cool because you can use them in your 3ds Max, and that's quite cool because you can use this with, let's say, Corona pattern, and by click of a button, you're going to be able to create a rope object or just something made out of net that looks good. And this is going to be something that's probably highly overlooked by a lot of users, but HDRIs are also super powerful, although the current setup for Corona Sky and Corona Sun is getting better and better. So I would say that it's good to have this at your disposal. So as you can see, it has also people. I use them from time to time. I even use them in some of our videos for our Instagram and for our social media overall. As you can see, I downloaded almost all of them already because I had a few projects that required people in those interiors. Do you need to select select the teapot on the left option? You need to select your object on the left option. Yeah, I did, but then it glitched out, and that's what made me a little bit anxious when I was using this script. Allow me to try it again. Maybe it's going to allow me this time. So okay, now just place it, and it actually worked on the teapot this time. So let's place this seed somewhere out here. So it's going to be slightly outside, but not too far because it's supposed to stick to it. And now it's going to grow on our teapot. So it was just glitching out for reasons unknown, but it's just trying its best to climb there. And I love this script. It's really helpful because it adds one thing that Scatter isn't really that good at, and it really covers every piece of your geometry. My trick with it is to mix the scatter and those splines, because those are going to work as decal, and the rest is going to be just scatter, and nobody's going to notice it as long as you set up your scatter the proper way. So you don't need to even do more than that. Okay, so next small plugin is going to be really something that is highly overlooked, and I believe it's just one of those things that I hope is going to work because I haven't used it for a while, but it's good. It's just good to have it. So let's make sure to try and use it. So run script. 1 second. Okie dokie. Okay. Now, WMW roof generator. This is something that I think is super cool and super smart because it takes me always a few minutes to come up with the right angle for my roof. And this is super cool because it allows you to work with specific objects and specific, let's say, shapes. So we can just create a roof. Unfortunately, it is always going to be adhering to the vertices. So that's something you have to take into account, that it works with the vertices of your shape and not the shape. So it is going to allow you to create funny roofs if you want to, and it's going to only allow you to change the shape of it. But honestly, I believe that this is one of the handiest tools out there, because building something like this is always a huge pain in the buttocks, and I just like saving time. And Roof Generator is the smallest of all of the plugins that I wanted to show you today, because this is how it works. It's super simple. You install it by moving it onto your viewport. It's free and it's quite cool. But let's talk a little bit about something that I think is going to be blowing your mind this time. So we can always do some hoops, jump through some hoops and loops and make a little bit out of it. But my favorite plugin is going to be from the family that we already talked about on this channel for a while. It's the Poly Snow Plus from CG Trader. So let's make sure to just introduce you to the software. So let's go for snow. And just a side note, they should add a nice icon, but they didn't. And that's a huge minus if you would ask me. But I really love this software because it pretty much has everything you might need for this type of interiors and exteriors. You saw me showing you Rayani's exterior, which had plenty of snow. That we're going to get back to that in a second. I mean, we're not going to, but the reason why I'm showing you that scene is that having this plugin would be a huge blessing for that student while she was creating this shot. After doing your course, can we apply for any foreign 3D Visualizer Academy? Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be, I can promise you that everybody's going to be hiring you, because that's not how we operate, because that would be just saying something that I'm just not sure of. But I am absolutely sure that after our training, you're going to be able to handle clients on your own. You're going to be able to find a job, and you're going to be efficient in 3ds Max. The knowledge that I could, and I wish I can actually look for one of the messages from my students. I'm copying it literally right now. I don't want to give out the name because this is personal. Hello, Mike. I hope everything in your life is going great. I just wanted to send a thank you message for the Vizacademy team. The skills you taught me got me on an interview with amazing architecture companies through the year. While amazing my clients as a freelance visualizer, I have finally started working as a junior visualizer in I'm going to omit this because I don't want you to contact that company for any reason, which is an estimated architecture firm in London. Thank you so much for everything you taught me, and wish you well. So this is a literal message from a student of mine that was a part of our training a few months ago, and this is something that I would definitely recommend you to. Joining our training is something that is going to be definitely helpful. Okay, so about this plugin, because this is what you came here for, it's super simple. It has snow objects, which are going to be, let's say, special modifiers. So we can create icicles, we can create flakes, we can fast snow those elements, particles, and make a mesh snow. So the fastest plugin there is for snow, we just click on it, create snow unselected, we wait one second, and it's already there. My huge tip for you, if you have unlimited RAM, just click it. But it's going to create a very dense mesh if you don't pay attention. So make sure to pay a little bit of attention. You want to go for something around 250, 180 with your resolution, and you can go lower with the size a little bit, but the whole idea is to make sure that you go for relative, go for wait a second. Let's go for 256, and we're just going to select those rocks that I had selected a second ago. Let's delete this, and now we're going to create the snow for all of those objects. Well, all of them? Yes, all of them. Car included? Yes. So we're going to take the car and let's look how it works with everything. Okay, so it created snow for my object and it's more or less cool, but there are some problems with it. First of all, there are holes, and this is due to the fact that I need a little bit higher size, so we can adjust this and it's going to just work. It works. It's something that is unheard of. Also, you can see that the object we have here is not exactly a car right now. So, but it's following real time. So we can change this from just a simple box into full mesh for the display. And look at that, real time. You can change anything about this snow and it's just going to quickly update. And I can even move objects. This looks fantastic. And the best possible thing that I absolutely love about this is that you have additional tools to sculpt this snow. So if I don't even need to increase the resolution because it's already very high, but if I would like to, I can, but I won't. So let's go ahead and try to change this into a setup for sculpting, or more like painting. So what I want to do now is create snow paint setup. So we just click on it. Now it's going to be snow painty object. And what we need to do is go for our snow sculpt. So we can just take the snow object and start sculpting. What does it mean to start sculpting? Well, we can just go ahead and start drawing. Well, nothing is happening. Why? Because my brush is set to almost no effect. I'm going to make it 5 times stronger, and instantly you can see that I'm getting almost no effect again. So let's just change to the brush that actually makes sense. And that's the tire mark. So start painting. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Control Shift and Alt at the same time to control the size. Okay, this is going to be big enough. And let's just make sure that the car actually drove here. Look at that. It's amazing. And it's one of those things that you just need to see yourself to really appreciate, because this is just amazing. And again, due to the fact that I can change the painting options, add a little bit of noise on the car, maybe add a little bit of brush strength, so it's going to really make this happen. And I can change the settings. Right now, then let's say the object has, let's say, lower quality. So let's go for 512. This is still going to be reasonable, but it's going to be a bit less. It's going to have a little bit more detail on it. Also, we can improve this by adding a little bit of more Gaussian. So it's going to be softer, and I want this to be thicker. So let's add a little bit more. So I'm going to cover more elements. Maybe a bit more even. So threshold, let's go for 15. So it's going to pretty much just cover almost everything, and there are no openings right now. Unfortunately, it reset all of my sculpting, but that's not an issue. So let's use some kind of fancy angle, and let's again go for tire track, start painting, and we're just going to paint in some nice tire tracks. This can be used for not only snow, but also for mud and all the other niceties. And this is going to be something that is going to be extremely cool to use, because if you're going to have a similar scene, you obviously will be able to achieve the same results. And just with a few clicks, using the snow and making all of those small iterations on your objects, this is going to be just the fastest possible option out there. Hi from Iran, Sulos Argentinos Mesde Mexico. Okay, desde Mexico. Hope that I didn't say any profanities. So this is a scene that I was able to create in 5 minutes prior to this webinar, and it was all just me using this beautiful snow option, and unfortunately for some reason it slowed down while rendering right now, but we're just going to make sure to get some of the elements out of the way. So first of all, one tip that I'm going to be giving you for absolute freebie is that whenever you will be using any kind of environment, you want to, first of all, add a little bit of particles of snow. As you can see here, I've got some of them in my scene, and those are cool, but they won't be, let's say, specifically perfect in most of the cases, because once you have particles of snow, they have to also have a little bit of movement. So if your particles will have movement, you want to make sure that your camera is going to have one additional option on, and that is motion blur, because that's when the snow is actually going to look good. Also, you as a human will only be able to see the snow maximum of 5 meters. So after that, those 5 to 20 meters, depending on how dense the snow is, you want to actually add one additional option, and that is volume. So we already covered how to add volume material to our objects and how it works, but look at that. Okay, this snow is fantastic, and it's just out of the box, and I'm only using 2 materials: snow material that we created, and also we're using the simplest setup for material override ever. So that's pretty much it. I'm using everything on pretty much default, so that's cool. But now let's change this to a second performance. Let's turn the fast preview is off. Now the creme de la creme for all exterior rendering is to go for volume, global volume material, which is going to act as a fog. Once you have the fog in, it's going to just make it so much better. But my quick and actually biggest tip for you is do not use the global volume this way. Just create a box instead, because that's going to render 10,000 times faster. So something like this is going to be more efficient than anything else, but it's going to also require a little bit different settings in order to get the right results, because fog is something that you're going to see after 15 meters in the snow. So it's pretty much what you should be going for whenever you will be rendering your atmospheric scenes. So let's add this box here, please. Okay, once again, come on. This is a big box. Thank you. Now it's in. Let's start interactive. So we're going to see the difference between fog and no fog. So this fog gives real effect. It's what the snow is going to benefit from the most, and well, without it, it's just going to be boring for the most part, because it's no longer going to look realistic. Okay guys, we went through all of the plugins that I wanted to show you. If you have any good suggestions for our plugins, or you have any questions, I can stay with you for 5 more minutes. We're going to just try to answer those questions, and if not, we're just going to skedaddle. So guys, you've got 1 extra minute for to post your questions. If not, we're just going to go ahead and skedaddle. So just a little bit bigger box. Guys, remember that whenever you will be adding volume boxes like this one, you want to make sure that your volume box is going to be outside, or let's say your camera is going to be outside of the volume box. As you can see, I've also added the particles that are actually part of. This is what I forgot about when I was talking about the plugin. Those particles are actually part of the plugin that I was just showing you. So this is cool because, yeah, it also creates particle systems and it's powerful. So I don't know what else I can tell you about it, but at this moment it's just cool. When will you gonna review portfolios? Probably in 2 weeks or so, but I cannot really tell you exactly when it's going to happen. I never used NVIDIA GPU denoiser. Is it better than Corona denoiser? D45 and... Oh, it's design. Okay, it's design. Nice. So design, written through 4531. Denoiser for the GPU denoiser is awesome, and it's actually going to be very, very, very helpful in many cases. So I would strongly recommend you to at least test it for some of the scenes. For example, whenever you will be using depth of field, NVIDIA denoiser is going to be helpful because fast preview and NVIDIA denoiser, the regular one, in some instances is going to blur out your details, but in others, it's going to instantly just make your images pop into existence, and it's really good for previews. In some cases, some simple scenes, especially product design and glass, can be rendered 10 times faster due to NVIDIA denoising. But in some other instances, especially with high detail grass or some kind of fabrics, this denoiser is just going to blur out everything and you're going to lose a lot of that said detail. So this is going to be something you're going to pretty much need to figure out on your own, but I'm still going to just be humbly recommending that you test it on your own. Definitely worth it. How to scatter IV models on splines or small wire mesh. So if you're going to go for IV on a model that's going to be a wired mesh, I would probably just use this IV on it. But if it's going to be something a little bit more complicated, imagine that you have a wired mesh that's going to be shaped as the same as this roof. What you do at that point is go for AutoGrid and you create an object that's going to be on top of that grid. Then you scatter the IV on this object, and that's it. That's how I would probably go for it, just forcing the IV to follow some object that has the same surface but doesn't necessarily have the same level of detail. Why the camera has to stay outside the box? Thank you, Stella. That's a very cool question. I'm actually going to answer that. So if we have some kind of volume material, and this is only going to be true whenever we will be working with Corona volume material, if we go for something like that and we try to, I need a way bigger box at this time. So if we're going to make this small mistake of placing our camera inside of the box, and I'm going to make that mistake in a second, our volume, so the fog that you can see here, is simply not going to be working. And I'm going to prove it by simply adding a little bit. Okay, we can see almost we cannot see anything, but believe me, there's detail there. So amazing detail, guys, amazing. But if I'm going to move inside of the volume box, as soon as I reach this threshold, you can see that, well, okay, now that is a new thing for me. So they fixed it. Yeah, sorry. Guys, this is actually part of updates to version 10. This now, again, an egg of mine on my face. Up until version 10, which we didn't review, Corona didn't have this ability. I mean, up until this time, if you would go for Corona 9 or other versions, the volume material would just disappear and it would work the same way as you would just hide the fog. So if you watch our previous video on the fog, I explained the same phenomena, and at that point, it wasn't yet fixed. So that's pretty much a good question, and I'm glad that we were able to go through this. So there's someone asking if the course is available in Spanish. So Yes, it is. The training is available in Spanish. Just try to look up Vizacademy ES, so it's for Espanol, and Javier is actually our host. You may know him from our Instagram, so if you want to, go ahead and, well, look it up. Is there a plugin like Snow for rain? No, unfortunately, I don't know any plugins like those for rain, but you can simulate rain with the same particles. Hindi, thank you. Why is the camera okay? Hello, hi. How to scatter IV models. Thanks for your precious time. Thank you very much for your precious attention. And hello, Ginger 3D. It's so nice to have you. Yes, it's an update in Corona 10. Yes, I forgot about this. Okay, guys, I think this is it for today. Our questions ran out. Please make sure to leave a like. Just do it now, do it for me, so we can later learn something together, and we're going to create another video in 1 week. I think it's going to be fair to say that we haven't modeled something cool in a while, and I'm going to show you how to model bags for in 3ds Max. Also, we're going to try to make sure to create some luxurious stuff for a little bit of a preview of something that I'm working on right now. Okay, once again, thank you very much for your attention. It was nice to have you all. Design Ginger, also Ala, thank you as well. As Jose, thank you for putting, focusing my attention on that. It's actually really helpful. Okay, well, Alexander, Arch Studio. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye, and see you next time.